Okay, so what I'm going to show you in this video is how to use the AND operator and the OR operator, and also some considerations that you need to make when you're using those operators. So I've built here an input that will get their username and the user's password, and then I have some variables that I've coded in that are just storing a username and a password and an email. And I realized I actually probably need to get their email too. We'll do that in a minute though. So let's get started. So let's say I want to see if their username and password are correct. So I could say if username is exactly the same as the input username, then I would alert correct. But I also want to check a second condition. I want to see if their username and their password was correct. So if I want to check two conditions at a time, then I need to use another operator. So I want to say if the username is exactly equal to the input username, then I'm going to use the ampersand twice. The ampersand is above the 7 key on your keyboard. So if you hold Shift and 7, it'll give you the ampersand. So I want to see if their username is exactly the same as their input username, and I want to see if their password is exactly the same as the password they input. If they did, I'm going to tell them, welcome to the system. Otherwise, I'm going to say alert, wrong username or password. So I'm going to save this and let's go see it live. It says, what is your username? And I think total is what I used. What is your password? Password. And it said, welcome to the system. If we reload, it says, what is your username? And what is your password? If we give the wrong password, it says wrong username or password. So that's how you can check two conditions. So that's if you want both conditions to be true. So if you want the first condition to be true and the second condition to be true in order to do whatever you're doing next, you'll use the ampersand. Sometimes you don't care which one is correct as long as one of them is correct. So let's adjust this. Let's say we're entering a system that doesn't have a password. I don't know why that would be, but let's say that's happening. Let's say we're just checking if they either know their username or their email. So we'll say if username, oh, this is now where we'll need to gather that information. So I'm going to hold Option Shift and hit the down arrow, and that will copy the above line down to the line I was just on. If you're on a Windows, it's Alt and then Shift and then the down arrow. So Option Shift down arrow or Alt Shift down arrow will copy a line of code for you. I'm going to change this from input password to input username. And I'm going to say, oh, sorry, input email. And I'm going to change the word password to email. So I'm now asking them for their username, their password, and their email. I don't like email on this line. I want to ask for it right after username. So I'm going to hold the option and hit the up arrow. And that moves the line of code I was on up a line. If you're on a Windows, you will hold the Alt key and hit the up arrow. And that moves the line of code around based on where your cursor is at. So I'm gathering in their username, their email, and their password, and then I'm checking it against the username, password, and email. In this case, if their username is the same as the username, or if they've entered the correct email address, so if their input email is exactly the same as the email, then I want to say welcome to the system. Otherwise, I want to say wrong username or password. So I'm going to come in and it's going to say, what is your username? And I'm going to enter the wrong one here. And what is your email? And I'm going to enter the right one here. And then it's going to say, what is my password? And I'm going to enter gibberish. And it says, welcome to the system. So notice I entered the wrong username, but the right email. And because of this OR operator, because one of the conditions was met, it allowed me into the system. One of the considerations you have to take into account is something called a dangling OR. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So I'm going to say if the username is this, or the email is this, um, and then so I want it to be if they enter either the correct username or the correct email, and then I also want to make sure they entered the right password. So I'll say if they've got either the right username and the right email, and they have the right password, um, input password. Then I want to welcome to the system. Otherwise, I want to say wrong username or password. Now, you would think that this would work. Let's go try it. So, what is your username? My username was Toa. What is my email? toa.pita@school.edu. What is your password? Password. And it let us in. Let's try that again. What is your username? Toa. What is your email? Something wrong, which should totally work. What is your password? Let's put something wrong there too. It still let us in. So because we've put that or on there, the way this works is the or will get rearranged to the end. So it means it's going to check to see if the password's correct or if they got the username right or the email. Any one of those, they'll let you in the system. Now that's not what we wanted. So what we want to do is we want to use parentheses. Parentheses force a condition to be checked in a certain order. So what we're going to say is we're going to say if the username is the right username or the email is the right email, then after we've checked that they have one of those two things, then we'll see if at least one of those was correct and the password is correct. Then we'll welcome them to the system. So we'll save and we'll reload our page and I'll say, what is your username? And I'll say Toa. What is your email? I'll put gibberish. What is your password? I'll put gibberish. It says wrong username or password. We reload the page. What is your username? Toa. What is your email? Gibberish. What is your password? Password. And it says welcome to the system. So now what it's doing, because of the parentheses, it's first checking to see if we've got the right username or the right password. It doesn't matter. I mean, sorry, right username or right email. Doesn't matter which one, as long as we have one of them. Once it's figured that out, it checks if we have one of those and the correct password. If we don't have the correct password or we don't have the correct one of the username or the email, then it won't let us in. But if we have both a correct username or email and the correct password, then it'll let us in. Maybe you're like me and this is giving you a bit of a headache. Well, I'm going to show you the other way to do this. I generally like to avoid writing ands and ors where possible because it leaves room for me to make a mistake and leave a dangling or on the end that does something unexpected. So I'm going to rewrite this using nested if statements. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say if the username is exactly the same as the input username, or, and we will use the or here, the input email is exactly the same as the email, then I want to see if the password is exactly the same as the input password. If it is, then I'm going to alert, welcome to the system. If the username is not the same as the input username and the email is, or the email is not the same, meaning if they got neither of those right, then I'll say else, alert, wrong username. And then here we'll say else, alert, wrong username or password. So they'll come in, they can enter either the username or the email. If they get the right one, then it'll ask them for a password and it'll say, welcome to the system. Otherwise, it'll alert wrong username or password. And then down here, that's probably not the right thing to put here. We'd probably want to put, sorry, can't find an account with that username. So now they can either enter the username or the email. As long as one of those is correct, then it'll ask them for a password. If neither of those is correct, then it'll tell them, sorry, no account with that username. If one of those is correct, then it'll check the password. So it's doing the same thing as the if statement on the line above, but you don't have to worry about the dangling or, and you don't have to worry about complicated parentheses. So where possible, you'll probably want to avoid those, but occasionally you'll find a situation where it's unavoidable. Make sure you're using parentheses in the right location, and that should conclude this video on and or. Thank you for watching.